that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
See, this is where my righteous anger pop up because I know what he's saying is a lie. I live in the South. I've been living in the South my whole life on the Gulf Coast. I go to vote every single time there's an election. And guess what? I show my ID. I write my signature. They check to make sure who I am. I go vote. No problems. Nobody asking me any questions. Nobody making me count the jelly beans in the jar. And quit lumping us in the people of color category. We're Black Americans. And we are citizens, and nobody is taking away our right to vote. What they are doing is they're using Black people, going back in the past, provoking emotional manipulation, because they know if they say Jim Crow or slavery, Black people are going to be like, oh my God, he's right. They're coming against us. This has nothing to do with you, Black people. Wake up. People of color he's talking about is illegal migrants. They don't have IDs. That's their new voting base. Letting these people use you. I've been having an ID since I was 15 years old. I'm 50 years old. Every Black person I know has an ID. You need an ID to drive. You need an ID to go into a club. You need an ID to fly on a plane. You need an ID to go into another country. You need an ID to buy liquor. You need an ID to buy cigarettes. I don't know any Black person without an ID. Even the poorest of the poor Black people have an ID. JJ down the street that dig in the trash can that I pass by, and he always bothering me about a little bit of money. And when I feeling a little giving, I give him $5. Guess what he do? He go straight into the liquor store and go buy him some liquor. But before he do, he present his ID. So even the homeless man got an ID. Black people, y'all can keep letting these liberals play in y'all face, but Malcolm X warned y'all about these people. They're using you. This is about getting illegal migrants to vote. They don't have an ID, so they don't want any questions whenever they walk in there. They are the Democratic Party new voting base. They are the new.
Be sure to smash the like button. Be sure to smash the like button. Welcome back to the Gregory Wright Show. My name is Gregory Wright. I am the host of my own show. Really glad to have you back. We are going to talk about the Save America Act, which requires voter ID before you vote in any U.S. election. State level, federal level, whatever kind of level, it requires states to verify that the citizens who are looking to vote have been vetted as U.S. citizens, documented as U.S. citizens.
What voting rights is he taking away from Black voters?
Oh, if we look at the Save Act, that's exactly what we're talking about.
How?
That is
How?
actually going to continue to
How?
disenfranchise
How?
overwhelmingly a lot of people of color.
How?
There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise Black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called
How?
it Jim Crow 2.0.
So,
this is the same president.
how?
If we want to continue,
You haven't said how, you haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's
How?
the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making
Poll
people
taxes?
have. That's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID, the reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country, and it's going to disenfranchise Black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims, you've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of Black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters. You got 3/4 of Black voters
That is not
who want
correct.
voter ID.
But
To be
not-
clear, the SAFE Act
that's
is
your
not
putting
just
words in my
about
mouth.
ideas. The SAFE Act is about
So what?
proof of citizenship.
So what?
So it doesn't. I actually.
It also makes it very hard for
talked about
married
this.
women who
I was just going to say, we
This is
talked
for
about this
young
before.
people,
By the way.
for
It's not.
voters.
It actually. There's an argument to be made that red state voters, women, poor white voters could be just as.
I know, you think they're dumb too, don't you?
Young
I mean, that's the
voters.
thing.
No,
I hear these,
nobody
I
thinks
hear
they're
these
dumb.
arguments. I've
Stop.
heard
Hold on,
Democrats all
hold on,
week long.
Scott.
No,
Please don't. No. You listen.
There's a deflection from talking
Please don't
about
say
long
that.
comes racism
I'm actually
right there.
You should be thinking about your constituents or your
Yeah, I think they're smart enough to figure out how to
colleagues in
register to vote.
Kentucky.
Abby.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change.
If you do not have access Listen, if you are an American citizen and you do not have access to your birth certificate, then you can go through your state or local government that you were born in and order a new one. And these federal elections happen every 2 years and then every 4 years for the presidential election. So if a woman gets married, change her name, she has plenty of time. I mean, the timing of everything is crucial in these circumstances. But, and I'm not saying that people should get married based on the voting cycle in the United States. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I am suggesting is that if you are a political person like I am and you want to make deliberate moves in the future regarding the posture of the United States, you're going to time some things, right? You're going to make sure that you have time to make sure that your name change has circulated throughout the systems that you frequent to prove your identity. If you move from one state to another, it is your duty, just like it is your duty to change your license plate, just like it's your duty to change your tax status and your residency, just like it's your duty to change the schools that your kids go to, the county that your kids go to. It is your responsibility as a U.S. citizen to register yourself as a voter in the state that you move to. Nobody is going to remind you. Nobody's going to tap you on the shoulder.
Change their names for marriage,
Listen,
have to provide additional proof that they've changed their legal names in order to register to vote.
I have heard
So
Democrats
Scott, why
make
don't
these
you
same
actually
arguments.
respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this
You're
about
saying,
something that it's not.
You're saying,
it's not just
you're
about
saying
voter ID.
married
It's
women,
also about
black
who has
voters,
access
and rural people
to,
are too stupid to figure out how to register to
Excuse me?
vote.
That's
No,
not.
that is not what
so
she said.
offensive.
That is
argument all
so
the time. It's
offensive.
crazy.
That
That's
is
not
so
what she
offensive.
said.
Let me
Somebody
offer.
said,
you
Let
saying
me offer
they
the
can't
proof.
figure out how
Let
to
me
vote?
offer.
You'll hear some of the arguments that, and I apologize for the audio up front. I didn't know that this particular clip was playing so low, but you'll also hear some of the Democratic arguments that black people and people of color are too stupid to make adjustments to their identity in order for them to vote in future U.S. elections. My mom is 89. She'll be 90 this year. She has all the ID. She doesn't have a passport, but if she wanted to vote in her local elections in the state of New York, in the city of New York, she's able to do so at 89 years old. So the old tired excuse of not securing our elections in the United States to make sure that illegal aliens are not voting, to make sure that there's no double state voting, meaning that people who move from one state to another, that the voting rolls scrub their names that from the state that they move from and add it to the rolls to the state that they move to. This also guards against double counting, triple counting, quadruple counting votes. This also attacks the Save America Act, also focuses on deceased voters who are still on states across the nation voting rolls that they've never been scrubbed. They've never, there's laws out there already on the books that mandates that governors and attorney generals from each state, secretary of state from each state, to scrub their voter rolls from deceased persons that no longer exist in the United States. This also goes for mail-in ballots that are incomplete, no date, no signature. These are safeguards to make sure that our local, state, and federal elections are secure. So let's get another video.
Graphics. Take a listen.
What are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj.
With reaction, Fox News contributors Ari Fleischer.
Controversial by race. The vast...
Yeah, so you saw those stats, right? 85% of white people, 82% of Latinos, and 70% of Black voters are in favor of voter ID. Now, the Save America Act added another dimension. The Save America Act added another dimension to what we see here. You see here that 85% of white people in America favor voter ID, 82% from Latinos, and 76% from Black voters in the United States favor voter ID. So it is very clear here that this is an 85-15 or at least an 83-17 issue that the Democratic Party and their supporters and the mainstream media, who's the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, are all in support of the 17% who do not support voter ID. And when you look at who the mainstream media and Democratic Party is talking about in terms of disenfranchisement, they're talking about illegal aliens, because the illegal aliens don't have ID. They're not going to be able to meet this criteria. But Blacks, Hispanics, and white people living in America legally all have the required documents to participate in U.S. elections. That's all what it boils down to. All right. So just a recap of the Save America Act. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, often referred to or reintroduced as the Save America Act in various forms, is a federal legislation aimed at requiring proof of U.S. citizenship. Be sure to smash the like button, folks. All right, trying to get through this quickly because I have somewhere to be. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, often referred to or reintroduced as the Save America Act in various forms, is a federal legislation at requiring proof of U.S. citizenship for voter registration in federal elections. While proponents argue its strengths, election integrity, by preventing non-citizen voting, which is already illegal and occurs rarely, critics contend it imposes barriers that could disenfranchise millions of eligible American voters, which I disagree. I've had an ID since I was 15, 16 years old, and when I turned 18, I had to register with the I forgot the technical name of it, but it was, you got to register at the post office that you turn 18 so you could be eligible for the draft. Selective service, I believe it is. right? You have a handful of notes here, right? What's in the Save America Act? What is in the Save America Act? Right? The bill prohibits states from accepting or processing a voter registration application for federal elections unless the applicant provides document proof of U.S. citizenship at the time of application. This applies across all registration methods, including in-person mail, motor vehicle officers, and voter registration agencies. According to the bill, acceptable documentary proof of citizenship, a real ID, which comes in the form of a driver's license, a valid U.S. passport, on average, not too many of us have, especially older people. An official U.S. military identification card accompanied by a U.S. military record of service showing a U.S. place of birth, a valid government-issued photo ID, federal, state, or tribal showing a U.S. place of birth, which I believe can be achieved by a driver's license. Any other valid government-issued photo ID, but only if paired with one or more of these supporting documents. Certified birth certificate. If you no longer have access to your birth certificate, you go to your state of origin and you order a new one. And if you're that irresponsible in putting your birth certificate in a safe place, then I would advise ordering multiple certified copies of your birth certificate, and not keep it in one place. Keep each copy in various places so that you can access it whenever you need it. Another document is a U.S. hospital birth record extract created at the time of birth, indicating a U.S. place of birth. Final adoption decree, a counselor report of birth abroad, if you've been born abroad, a naturalized certificate of citizenship issued by the Department of Homeland Security, if you fit into that category. Let's see here. An American Indian card issued by the Department of Homeland Security with the KIC classification. Not too hard, right? Requirements for voting in federal elections. Eligible photo identification document. Right? A photograph of the individual. You can take with your iPhone. Many of us have. An indication that the individual is a U.S. citizen. An identification number or the last 4 digits of the individual's social security number. Shouldn't be hard. But opponents of the Save America Act, they want to fearmonger among U.S. citizens who should have no problem obtaining source documentation proving that they are U.S. citizens. And if Americans are determined to shop during the Christmas season, if they are determined to shop during the summertime, taking their kids to Disney World, Disneyland, all these expensive vacations, then they can carve off $50 to $100 it takes to make a name change on your official identification documents. The average discretionary income from an American, for an American in 2025 was approximately $21,000. And that was on top of mid-class to lower class people almost guaranteed to receive some type of a state and federal tax income combined average of an additional $5,000 to $6,000. So we're talking about nearly $30,000 in the average discretionary income. Discretionary income is income that you have left after paying bills and taxes and much needed expenses to survive: food, clothing, shelter, automobile, a means to maintain maintenance on your automobile. After all that, you got $21,000 on average that Americans in 2025 had as discretionary income. And then you lay on top of that the tax returns that the average American received anywhere from between state and federal tax returns, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on top of the $21,000 average of American discretionary income. So now we're talking nearly $30,000 in 2025 per household on average had discretionary income. So if voting is important to you, then you'll carve off some of that discretionary income to make sure that your documents are straight so you can vote in state and federal elections. All right. Costs. What are the costs? Low examples: Florida. So to replace your birth certificate or something like that, $9 first copy. Higher cost examples: $30, $25, in some cases up to $50. It's not hard, folks. It's not hard. Just going down the list. Now, mainstream media is going to always try to downplay the number of illegal aliens who participated in our federal elections. And although statistics so far that I found is illegal aliens participating in federal elections is less than 1%. To be exact, it's 1,000th of 1%, so 0.001%, which is barely enough to sway an election here or there nationally. But when we're talking about swing states and we're talking about the fact that more and more illegal aliens are somehow becoming eligible to vote under some sanctuary states, has a potential of swaying a swing state from Republican to Democrat, which is in my book called cheating. Now, another aspect of this is I asked AI how many deceased voters were discovered on voting rolls in the U.S. over the last 10 years. And that number from 2016 to 2026 is astounding. Up to 22 million deceased voter registrations for voting rolls nationwide, based on biennial election administration and voting survey reports from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission and recent federal audits. I'll read that again. When we're talking about how many deceased voters were discovered on voting rolls in the U.S. over the last 10 years, it is an astounding up to 22 million deceased voter registrations from voting rolls nationwide based on biennial election administration and voting survey reports from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission and recent federal audits. So we do have a problem with voter legitimacy, voter security. It doesn't necessarily have to do with voter ID. Voter ID is the backstop. It's a measure to make sure that someone is who they say they are and not posing as one of the 22 million deceased voters that have been discovered over the last decade, right? So I also asked AI the number of people on state voter rolls across the United States who moved to other states in the last 10 years. And that number is 6 million Americans between 2016 and 2026 who moved interstate remained registered to vote in their previous state based on analysis of national voter file data that identified duplicate registration across state lines. So the Save America Act is multifaceted. It's a multi-purpose document that I hope passes the U.S. Senate sometime soon. 83% of Americans support voter ID, probably a little less in supporting the additional dimension added to it recently that requires documentation that you are a U.S. citizen before you even register to vote. I just want to know what you guys think. I'm probably not the only one in my audience that has an aging mother, aging sister, aging aunt, aging father, aging brother, aging uncle, right? Got to throw those guys in there too because they're just as important. But no black person that I know has a problem with getting the necessary documentation to prove that they are U.S. citizens. And nobody that I know who wanted to vote couldn't vote because they lacked credible ID. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for joining the Gregory Wright Show. I'll see you in a sec.